You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. We see what has taken place in the state of Maryland, where the legislature there, they have actually overwritten vetoes of various bills by the governor of Maryland. A bold move, if you will. Lawmakers repealed the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, making the first state to do so. The Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights would have protected police officers from investigation and prosecution. New rules have been put in place requiring officers to prioritize de-escalation tactics and imposes a criminal penalty for those found to have used excessive force. Also, discipline for officers who use excessive force will be largely decided by civilian panels, with police chiefs still maintaining a role in the decision. How important is this action by the Maryland legislature to override these vetoes by Governor Larry Hogan?
Oh, I think it's huge, man. I think it's huge, and I think it could become a model or precedent for other places around the country that have the kind of political mass that they had there in Maryland. They had to have enough votes to override the governor's veto, which they did, and rightfully so. I think you're going to see changes in terms of outcomes in police encounters there in Maryland, and I think you can see those same changes anywhere that those kinds of moves are made. To Sergeant Dorsey's point, that certification piece is critical. It has to be looked at. Qualified immunity must be done away with. And I think we have to start looking at these collective bargaining agreements that unions put in place, many of which include the kinds of disciplinary protections and lack of transparency and time between the time that you commit a crime or are involved in a critical incident, and you have to provide a statement. You get all this time to get your story together, and all these other protections that the average citizen like you and me don't get when we commit a crime. So I think it's huge, and I think the nation is ready for that. I've said in other spaces, our top-line administration, the Biden administration, now is the time for courage, man. This is not the time to be waffling around and nibbling at the edges and tinkering with quote-unquote reforms. You all were put in office on a mandate, a nationwide mandate to do something about the racism that is at the foundation of criminal justice and most intensely reflected in police culture and police encounters between Black people and the police and the communities they live in. We have an opportunity now to do that, and I'm confident that we're going to keep doing that, although I'm aware that there's going to be a fight in it because the other side is well-resourced and committed to the white supremacy that's at the foundation of the system they serve and maintaining the status quo.
DeLacy, the thing here also when you're dealing with white liberals who don't get it, take James Carville. He was on a interview with Weekly Standard editor Bill Kristol where he was bitching and moaning about cancel culture and what he called the drag on identity politics. And this is what he said. It's the thing that I'm most worried about. Carville told Kristol about these issues. They're always trying to get somebody fired. They're outraged at somebody all the time, and it just wears people down. This is Carville. He ripped defund the police. But here's the reality. The people who advocated for defund the police, who were pushing for as an aggressive stance as possible, that's what leads to what took place in Maryland. That's what leads to what took place with the New York City Council, and the same thing when it came to the immunity clause with police officers. That's why we're seeing the changes. And so Carville, for all of his focus on let's just get Democrats elected, well, Carville, white boys like you not getting shot and killed. White mamas are not having to be on television like Deontay's mama and Eric Garner's mama. See, that's what's not happening. See, so all these folk who will say, oh, y'all shouldn't be, oh, it's like this is hurting us politically. No, it's hurting us as a community and as a nation.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. There's racism with the liberals and the conservatives, right? Because at the end of the day, we still continue to lose at the end of the day. I don't think that anybody else gets to tell us what hurts and how long we should cry about it and how we should respond to it. I want to acknowledge Senator Jill Carter in Maryland because we've been working with her office and others in that community since 1997. So that's how long it has taken Maryland to get to where they are today, because people like Jill Carter and those who preceded her were taking on this fight long before it was popular. And so the Carvilles of the world, you're right, their children, they're not having the talk with their little white children, Joey, Tom, Bob, Susie, whoever else they've got in their community, but we do. They're not ducking. They're not dealing with double consciousness. They're not dealing with double marginality. The reality that black folks have got to constantly have to be seen through the eyes of white America, which is what you heard when that officer was giving commands and demands to the lieutenant. What he was essentially saying was, boy, stay in your place. And because you're out of your place, I'm going to correct you. And that's what we're talking about. What we're really talking about is America's racial reckoning. She has been exposed. The vulnerabilities have been exposed. The inequities have been exposed. And so folks have to pick a side. And that's where we are at this point. What side are you on? Are you on the side of right, social justice, fairness, equity? Or are you on the side of we want to give them a little bit of justice, but we want to maintain power and control over the resources in this country?
Here's why I'm laughing, Cheryl. Carville says Biden doesn't get involved in all of this, and I think that's smart. He just keeps talking about what he talks about, and I think it's smart because once you get drawn into it, their light, they never stop. But President Biden also, he's also, of course, he said he was going to establish a National Police Oversight Commission within his first 100 days. It's not being placed on hold. Why? Because the White House got with national civil rights organizations and police unions and decided the commission is not necessary, redundant, and that more focus should be placed on meaningful police reform that brings profound, urgently needed change. Biden's administration is in full support of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. The thing here, Cheryl, which again, while I'm laughing, is because, oh, right, a commission. Obama had one. Okay, don't create another damn commission. Change the damn laws.
That's right.
Absolutely. And, you know, this whole George Floyd Justice and Reform and Policing Act, it sounds good and sexy, but the fact of the matter is there are no real teeth behind it. A lot of the things that they're proposing, some of it is already being done. Putting officers on a registry nationally is certainly not going to stop a Derek Chauvin. Every police officer who cuts up is on a list somewhere. Do you think that they didn't know who Derek Chauvin was? He had 18 personnel complaints. And so I've been very vocal about this whole national registry. And, you know, the police chief there in Minneapolis taking the stand and speaking out. And, you know, everybody wanted to give him kudos and a pat on the back. He gets no brownie points from me. He's been the chief over there for 2 years. They know exactly who Derek Chauvin was, yet they allowed him to live to offend again. And the other officer, the Asian officer, Tao, who stood sentry, he was responsible for a $25,000 settlement because he hit a black man in the head with a flashlight and knocked his teeth out. So knowing who they are, discussing it, having a panel, a registry, and all of that good stuff is meaningless, and it will do nothing to deter these officers. In the midst of this George Floyd trial, we still see outrageous and egregious behavior. They haven't been able to control themselves since last May, and here we are today talking about Daunte Wright in the midst of everything that's gone on nationally.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.